All right. We are live. This is exciting. Okay. Hey, you guys. Welcome back to Conversations with Allieetoile. Happy Monday. I hope all of you guys had a wonderful weekend or a very happy Easter, happy Passover, whatever you're celebrating. And we are back with an amazing week full of guest speakers and conversations. So I'm going to welcome our first guest now. There he is. Okay, let's see. Julien. Okay, just a second, guys. Let's see. There he is. Hello,
Okay.
mister. How are you?
Hi, Allie. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Well, welcome to Conversations with Ali Atwal. I'm so excited to have you on here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into today's conversation and questions and all of that amazing discussion material, I want to give the metaphorical microphone to you and allow you to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about who you are for those who are joining us now and who are new, loving, and adoring fans.
Um, well, I'm Julian. I am 22 years old and I live in Stockholm, Sweden. But I was born in Belgium, but I am Dutch. That's
Nice. And you're currently dancing in Royal
oh
Swedish
yeah.
Ballet a little bit. Or tell us a little bit about where you're dancing and what you've done professionally.
Yes. I've been a dancer with Royal Swedish Ballet for the last 3 years now, almost. And I studied at the Royal Conservatoire in The Hague and at the Royal Swedish Ballet School in Stockholm. And I participated in Prix Lausanne, where we met. No, we met at the
Royal Ballet
summer.
Summer School, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
it
And
was, it was.
Prix Lausanne as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, Julian, I am so excited to have you on here today. It means the world to me. I hope that you and your loved ones are still doing well. And I have some amazing questions that were sent in over the weekend for you, and of course, other ones that I'm just dying to talk about. So, without further delay, let's get in. And for everyone joining us now, thank you guys so much. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them in as we get through this. So, Julian, obviously, this is kind of the same way I start with everybody. No one's really dancing right now. What are you doing? You know, how are you keeping ourselves busy? How are you keeping your mind occupied? You know, what can you tell us a little bit about, or if you are able to talk a little bit about what's happening with Royal Swedish Ballet and what's next for you guys?
Well, the rules in Sweden are a little bit different than the rest of Europe.
Okay.
Um, so we're still allowed to go out, and everything is still open. And actually, we are still kind of working. We're not working or rehearsing at the moment,
Sure.
uh, but there are still classes being taught in the morning. There's morning class. There's some cardio.
Oh,
There's
wow.
full part, an afternoon class. So everything is still kind of going on here in Sweden.
That's nice,
Uh,
though. Yeah, life continues.
yeah, but me personally, I'm very good with not doing anything. So I have been social distancing myself for quite a while now. I've been just staying at home as much as I can and as much as I can take.
Sure.
So it's good that we still have the freedom here in Sweden that, like, if I feel like I want to go out and meet my friend for dinner or something, I can still do that.
That's
But
nice.
try not to do. I just stay inside all day, uh, watch a movie or a series or play video games on my PlayStation. So
Sure.
yeah, that's what
No,
I've been doing.
that's amazing to hear that Sweden is in that good of a position right now. I mean, I know a lot of the world is in quarantine, a lot of the world is in lockdown, and so it's definitely, you know, and you yourself making the conscious decision to self-isolate as much as possible. You know, it takes a toll on all of us. Obviously physically, but mentally as well, because we're not in the normal social working environments. We're not around different people, getting different experiences. So it can be a little bit like, okay, we're waking up, we're making our coffee or
Yeah.
tea, doing the same thing over and over and over. And what am I going to do today? So, no, that's something that I think everyone is kind of challenged and faced with at the moment. But with that being said, I want to talk a little bit more about your career, and I want to talk about the highs, the lows, the ups and downs, all these different things. Basically, the common theme today and what it has been on the series so far is just mental health, mental well-being, and of course in dancers, but this is something that's just we can all relate to on a human level. You know, we all experience times of amazing wonder and fulfillment and excitement, and then we also experience times where we are not doing so great and we are feeling less than lovely. So I want to start, the first question is basically, physical versus mental demand. What do you think is more? Is this, do you find the physical aspects of ballet more difficult for you, or do you find the mental components more difficult, or is it, is it circumstantially, are certain things more difficult depending on the circumstances?
Yeah. I don't have a body that's made for dancing at all. I don't have a natural flexibility or turnout or overstretched knees, or I don't have good feet or arches. So I would definitely say that the physical aspect has been way more demanding for me. Because, you see all these images. This is also mentally in a way.
Sure.
All these images, and you're like, I have to become like that. And I've always tried to push myself and push. And then at one point, something switched in my mind, and I'm like, okay, I have what I have, and I have to deal with it. And I just try to work as hard as possible with that. But it's been taking a toll on my body. Like, I've had injuries in the past with my knees, especially, that overdo my turnout and like my natural turnout, to make an iso line, everything, and I have flat feet, so I roll in a lot and all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely been way harder for me than the mental aspect. But that's also because mentally I'm quite strong. I am very positive. I like to see the things on the positive side and not take everything so serious.
Sure.
So of course I have my bad days, and I can get very grumpy when I have a bad day. But when you're in a ballet class and nothing is working, I have those days, like
we all do, yeah, of course.
Most of the time, actually. But I don't know, I just kind of laugh it off in a way. I just look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, that was funny.
Yeah. No,
let's try it again.
That's a wonderful attitude to have. I mean, and it's interesting too that you've mentioned, of course, like one would think, and actually I've got my computer here right now and the screen is just like, what do you mean? How does that not affect you mentally? Like everyone's like, wow. I mean, I think they're coming from the standpoint of, because ballet, it's true. It is a very competitive art form. In order to be at the level that you are with such a reputable company, and to be, internationally, like, I mean, it's a huge thing. It's a big accomplishment that so many people are hoping to get to at some point in their life. And so, of course, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of physical judgment that you have, there's a lot of criticism. And so I think what people are writing in, and basically, someone just wrote it and said, for me, when you see so many people around you, doesn't that make you nervous? Like, oh, look at that girl's foot, or look at this guy, he's got the, tours fifth to fifth, like 10 times over than I do, of course, like, there's always going to be somebody better. There's always going to be somebody different. But I love how you're saying, there was this moment that, like, I am me and that's my greatest asset. Can you talk a little bit about what that moment was and how did that change your dancing? Because it is something that we do internalize quite a lot.
Yeah, well, it was not a particular point that I know, like, okay, now this switched, but it happened like gradually. I think in my audition year that I auditioned, because I auditioned for 2 years. In the first year, it was very hard to get a job.
Sure.
Or anything, and that took like a mental toll on me because I didn't expect it to be that hard. And you also kind of have to learn how to go through your auditions, you know.
Yeah.
So it's very hard, and of course you're being judged in an audition, and so that was super hard. And then I didn't get a job, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to school, learn for another year, um, try to get as many opportunities as I can in the school repertoire that we were doing and everything. And then my second year in the audition, after my first audition, I had an opportunity to get into a company. So then I started to believe in myself, and then all the auditions I did after that went so much better. And it was just because felt secure in myself, because I had gotten validation in a way
Yeah.
from that first company that offered me a spot. And then I ended up getting a contract, which was a very weird story, at Royal Swedish Ballet with a lot of luck. But I ended up getting a contract here, and then the first year was hard mentally because you're on your own.
Sure.
And I was lucky to have a lot of people that were on their own, because we joined the company with 15 new dancers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we were all in the same boat in a way. And then you try to get opportunities, and it's your first year in the company, and you're not being casted really. So you have to prove yourself in other ways. And then we did a Foresight Ballet, and there was a guy that got injured, which gave me an opportunity, which is very double. You know, your friend gets injured, but it gives you an opportunity. And that was the moment for me that I could show myself to the company, and then I got nice feedback from my director and from other colleagues, and that's kind of where it started switching, where I was like, okay, I am good in what I'm doing.
Sure.
I might not have 6 clean pirouettes or double tours fifth to fifth, or a nice double cabriole or something, you know. I don't have that, but I do have my own strength. And to get to the point for me where I was like, okay, it's not working today, but I'm still okay with myself, was knowing your strengths.
Absolutely. Actually. And how important would you say it is, and this is someone, I mean, I just want to tag this in because I think this question is extremely relevant, how important do you think it is to be able to, of course, dancers, in our career, we're constantly working, and we're going to be working and trying to improve until the day we retire. But how important do you think it is to be able to identify your areas of weakness and identify your areas of strength? Because there's a lot of dancers and a lot of companies who will kind of classify themselves as, oh, I'm a more Giselle romantic type of dancer, or I'm a more fiery Kitri, whatever, and it's very easy to fall into this, I'll be good at this, so I need to work on that, that's where I should be focusing on, and this is not really for me, so I'll just kind of just skirt through it. Mm-hmm. Which again, it's not the mentality for everybody, but I'd love to get your thoughts.
To me, when you're on a stage, whether it's a classical ballet or a contemporary or modern ballet, you're completely naked in a way.
Sure.
When I'm watching a show, even if it's like a ballet like Don Quixote and there's clear characters, and Kitri has a clear, fiery, what's it called in English?
Personality, yeah.
You can still see if the person is completely comfortable with themselves in a way. And to me, when a person knows their weakness and their strength, they can play to that, and then will make them super comfortable even on stage or even in class.
Absolutely.
Like I cannot turn to the right side. I'm not a right turner, so whenever I turn to the right side, I try to go for triples, but sometimes I just do a double, and I just try to dance it out. I try to make something out of that double, and it's because I know my weakness that I can play with that.
For sure. I think
that, I don't know. It makes you more comfortable even on stage, and if you know how to play with your weaknesses and strengths.
Absolutely. No, I love how you mentioned the stage application, but the studio application as well. Because I think there's also, and this kind of leads into the next question, obviously a good majority of a dancer's career is in the studio. And, obviously some companies more so than others have stage performance opportunities, but the overall majority of what we do is a day-to-day in the studio with our colleagues and with our ballet masters and artistic directors. How important do you feel it is to project and emote and work on that artistry in the studio? Because I know that there are so many teachers out there and even students who feel the need to just put the blinders on and okay, this technique step today, this one tomorrow, just going through those motions and not necessarily paying so much attention to what's happening up here and in here, in our hearts.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert on this level at all. It works for me. Whenever I'm in a studio, and some of my colleagues might agree, I tend to be more of a dancer than a technical dancer in a way. I'm a mover, and I don't really care what happens down with my feet that much, which is kind of a bad thing, and I know that. But to me, dancing is moving and being musical and exuding joy to other people, and that's what I try to do in the studio as well. And this takes time. When I was in school, I was like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta be on my balance, I gotta work on everything.
Yeah.
But now in the company, I just try to dance and I try to enjoy, and because I think that is what makes me stand out in a way.
For
is
sure.
That I can do like that. Like when, for instance, I watch a ballet class, I don't necessarily look at the person that's working hard. And of course, it's good to do that. I have my days that I do that. But I get drawn to the person that's happy.
Yeah.
And doing that while they are dancing. And I try to do that whenever someone comes in to audition us for a piece or something. I try to just show my happy side.
Show them who you are. No, I think that's an amazing quality. And, I think it's important to highlight too, of course, when you're in a company and when you're in the corps de ballet, there is this expectation of you've got to be all the same, the arms match, the heads match. There's this unity, which of course is beautiful with what we do, and the application of it is astounding. I mean, it's incredible what girls and guys are able to do. And I think sometimes you lose sight of course you have to be uniform, but there are opportunities, maybe not on stage yet, but in the studio with choreographers, with your ballet masters, to show who you are, to show your own independent artistry and uniqueness. Yeah. Because I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. That's what people are gravitated to. The majority of our public audiences aren't necessarily as educated or as informed about the technique. They're just wanting to have that escape from reality, be absolutely taken on a journey and transformed into your world. So I think that's a beautiful point to mention. And I want to talk a little bit more into that as well, just enjoying what we do, because I think that I've been calling this the burnout factor, and I've discussed this a couple times on here with people where, it's hard what we do as a student, as a professional. It's, again, you've mentioned it as well. There's just days where it doesn't work out and it's hard. And if you're able to laugh about it, that's amazing. But we're not always able to laugh about it because sometimes it's upsetting and it's frustrating. And over time, if that continues to build or we're not addressing those areas that we need to address, it can lead us to kind of burning out a bit and, not having the motivation and not having that, oh, I want to go in and work extra today, or I need to do this extra today, whatever that may be or whatever that might look like. Have you ever experienced a time where you felt just like you were dragging and like, oh, I can't, I don't want to be doing this right now? And how did you get yourself out of that?
Well, I remember, but this was way back in high school. Um, I really didn't want to do ballet anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to do the ballet classes or the modern classes. I felt more like that I wanted to do musical in a way, and
Sure.
I was a good musical in the Netherlands, and I really was at a point where I was like, maybe I should do that. But then I spoke with my one of my teachers, and we just had a really like heart to heart conversation, and I was very upset, and that was the point where I was like, I don't want to do this, and then she's like, you got to push, it will be rewarding and everything, and I'm so happy she did say that to me. But nowadays, I don't really, I haven't had a moment where I was like, I don't want to do this, because I think it's important to find the balance
For sure.
in what you do. So for me, I do not do extra work out of my working hours. Actually, I I don't say this as an advice, like but I feel if I don't want to do it, I don't know how to put this. This is hard.
No, it is. It's a difficult question, and it's interesting because you said don't take this as advice, but I do. I want people to take this as advice because I think one of the most important things that people can really mention and what people can say is the only one who's going to take care of you is you, and only you can determine what your needs are that moment in time, that day, that week, throughout any time throughout your student and professional career, because we're constantly changing our needs and how we're what we need to sustain ourselves as a dancer and as a person. So I think that is important. Everyone, there are some people who feel like the extra helps or the break helps, and it's totally normal and totally healthy that what I might do could be completely different to what you do.
Yeah, totally. Well, I I'm a kind of a weird dancer in that type of way because I don't go to the gym. I don't do the extra workout things. I only do like a 5 minute warm up before class, which is not really a good thing to do, is what I've always been told. But it works for me. I feel like if I warm up like half an hour before class, I feel like I cannot finish the class and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the outside work out of like if I have a day from 10 to 5, because those are our working hours, it's not that much. Um, but those are our working hours, and we have people that stay until 8 and they work and work and work and work, and I'm just there and I'm like, I could never see myself do this. Not because I'm not motivated or I don't want to become a good dancer, but just because it doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like if I would start doing it, I would get unhappy
For sure.
because I have done it once. That was a guy that works out a lot in our company, and I was like, oh, I want to go to the gym with you for a week or 2 weeks, and I did that, and just to try it out and see how I feel, and I just felt tired. I couldn't move my body, and I was so like, ugh, I don't. It's not working for me, and so I kind of stopped doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I have my days where I feel like, okay, my legs could use a little workout. Let's do it because I'm not jumping high, or I feel my knees are playing up again, and then I do my
Sure.
stuff. But when I feel great, I don't necessarily do all the extra exercises.
No, I mean, and it's totally independent and it's totally individual, and it's definitely something, someone's writing in, it doesn't make you any less of a dancer by taking care of yourself. I think that's a beautiful point because again,
Yeah,
the path to success, the path to maintain longevity and your health and your sanity in this career, it's not the same from one person to the next. And I think it's important to realize, there are so many stereotypes and so many stigmas about this is what you have to do to be like this. And
yeah,
I think it's important to talk about that that's not the case always, and that's not always what you have to do. That's just what one person did, and that's what worked for them. And
Yeah.
so I think it's important, like you'd mentioned, you had an amazing teacher, you had amazing support figures in your life to help you navigate and to help you find what works for you. I had that for me,
Yeah.
and it looks differently on me, it looks differently on the next person. So I think it's incredibly rewarding and incredibly inspiring to be able to see, like, this isn't just you have to do this to do that. Like medical school with doctors, everyone's got to go to medical school, but you don't have to go to the same medical school. It's like the same thing for us. You don't have to go to a major ballet academy. You could be privately trained. There's
For sure.
there's so many different ways to be successful, and so many different ways to find what works for you as well. So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about what worked for you. Obviously, with sacrifices. Sacrifice is something that all of us have to make in life, whether it's a ballet career or just life in general. There's things that there's decisions that we have to make, and unfortunately, ballet is one of those careers where we have to give up quite a lot to pursue it at the level that we're at now. And so I would love to hear your thoughts about, what have you personally experienced as you've progressed from student to professional, and what advice could you give to dancers who are in that place and are struggling with having to make those tough choices in order to keep themselves going?
Yeah. Well, the sacrificing for me started very young, actually, because I grew up with two older brothers, and we were all playing soccer.
Okay.
And I played from the age of 4 until 12. And at the age of 12, my mom was like, okay, you have to make a decision for your health. And because time-wise, you need to either play or do ballet. And I chose to do ballet. So that's my first sacrifice I made.
Mm-hmm.
And to get the professional training I needed to am where I am now, I had to go into a host family. So I would live with other people for 5 days of the week and then go home on the weekends because I wasn't able to travel back and forth every single day. And I did that for 5-6 years. So I kind of moved out of my parents' place when I was 13. So that was like a huge sacrifice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, I hear more people do it. My roommate, for instance, she moved away from home to a total different country at, I don't know, the age of 14, 15, I'm not sure. So yeah, those sacrifices are being made, but you have to, I don't know, see for yourself if the sacrifice is worth it. And of course, I had lots of friends back home in the Netherlands and everything. And people ask me, why don't you join a company in the Netherlands? First of all, they didn't offer me a contract, but I felt like Royal Swedish was a very good fit for me, and it's a great company, and it's also a sacrifice I made that I'm not living with my family or close to my family.
For sure.
And in days like these where we're in quarantine now or on lockdown with this disease, I also made a sacrifice of not going home because there was an opportunity actually for us to go home, but I did not do it because first of all, I didn't want my mom to get sick because of me, for instance, because I don't know if I had the virus or not or was gonna get it
Had been
on my
exposed,
travel.
yeah.
Like I wouldn't know, and my mom with some health issues, it was just not a good idea, and so that was also a sacrifice. So I don't know. What was your question?
I mean, it's basically just, we have to make so many difficult choices at some point or not within our lives, within our careers. And what has been the motivating factor or the source of strength to help you make those decisions and be confident in making them?
Just the love of dance.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It sounds
No, it's
easy, but
amazing.
it's true. I love doing this. Even on bad days, I cannot imagine not moving my body and not being able to dance. Like last week, I was feeling sick because I had I had an ear infection, and it was like really painful, and I was in bed for 3 days, and I felt so bad. I was like, I want to move, I want to dance, and it's I cannot imagine not dancing.
For
So that's
sure.
definitely the factor that helped me through all of those sacrifices.
I love
Because
hearing
it
that.
was not,
I do.
yeah, it was not easy being in host families and away from my family and with like holidays and everything. It's super hard, but just being able to move my body and make other people happy in a way is what got me through.
I think that's incredible because it's I've talked to so many dancers and I've experienced things myself, much like everyone else has. And there sometimes we go through these phases where we're like, it feels like a job, it feels like work now. And I want to just, use you as this example because you are someone who not only went through that whole process of student and training and getting into a company, but here you are now in one of the major companies in our world. And the answer to probably one of the most difficult questions on here is talking about sacrifices and challenges. I do it because I love this. I think it's so important for younger dancers to hear that because if you don't really love this, it's just too hard. It's
Yeah.
just too difficult. And even when you have the difficult times and the difficult path, because there's going to be road bumps and there's going to be obstacles. But even when you have that, your answer to everything is just, I love it. I want to do it because it is such a
Yeah.
choice. And I think that's a beautiful reminder for people to say, like, we're not forced into doing this. We don't have to do this for a good majority of our lives. We do it because it makes us happy or it fulfills us in a way that something otherwise doesn't. So I think that's incredible. Now, I want to talk about a slightly more delicate topic, but I think it's super important as well. Obviously there's a lot of beautiful things about ballet, but there's a lot of other things that are less than lovely. One of those things being stereotypes and stigmas and opinions within ballet companies, within ballet culture. And I wanted to talk about a few of those in particular. Obviously, with having, being a ballet career, a lot of people think it's a female dominated art form. You are a male, very successful, talented one at that. So I'd love to get your thoughts. What are your feelings on people who think that ballet isn't for guys? Or dance isn't for guys?
I mean, everyone's dancing. I see all of you out there, during this quarantine making those little dance videos on TikTok. Everyone's doing it now. Um I mean, and then the stigma about ballet being very feminine. I'm like, every female dancer needs to be lifted at some time, so they need a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And just people don't know that much about the ballet world,
For
and they
sure.
don't, like, for instance, they are like, oh, every guy that does ballet must be gay. Now I am a bad example because I am, but there, when I joined this company, I was like, oh, I thought everyone was going to be gay, but like most of them are not, so they're like, I think, yeah, people's eyes need to be open in that kind of way, because they're like, it's feminine, so it must be gay, and every guy that does it must be gay, but that's totally not true. They're some of the most straightest guys I've ever met in a ballet company, for instance, Um, yeah, and I'm happy with, like, nowadays. I remember when this news reporter, or I forgot her name, but on Good Morning America, made this remark about the
Oh, Laura Spencer, is that what it
yeah,
is? Yeah, that one. Oh, that one definitely.
thing about the little prince taking ballet classes. It was a great opportunity for the ballet world to stand up against it, and I'm so happy they did, and that it got so much media cover as well, because it really opens up another world for other people that don't know anything about ballet.
For
Now,
sure.
doing a ballet class on Times Square maybe wasn't the best way to show it, but it is, and I'm so happy they did. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it needs to be more in the mainstream than it is. Like Misty Copeland was at the VMAs with Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
and the spotlight is on Misty, and she is strong and beautiful. But there's also a guy dancing with her, and he is strong and beautiful as well. So more stuff like that, I think. I don't know.
No, I love that perspective. I think it's important, as much as we are dancers, we are athletes. And I love how you mentioned too, from time to time in ballet, well, newsflash, in every single ballet that I've seen, maybe there's one or two I can think of, but there's a guy in pretty much every single one of them. And he's usually a pretty important guy within the ballet as well. And half of what we do as females cannot be done at the level we do without having a partner. And so I think it's important for people to realize that what we do is extremely athletic, it's extremely skilled, and absolutely. I mean, guys in ballet, I think you guys are rock stars. I mean, personally, I don't know if I could do ballet if I was a guy. Seeing you guys do double tours, double soda boss, all these crazy, crazy things, and I just sit here think like I would absolutely fall and break my neck if I tried doing any of that. I mean, truly.
So,
No, it's so true, and I think it's important for not just ballet students, like female ballet students, but I think it's important for younger male dancers to hear from professionals such as yourself, that, yeah, of course there's going to be judgment, of course there's going to be opinion, but that shouldn't determine whether or not you pursue this. Like you said, you love this and this is something that you fought for, but I think it's incredibly noble to be able to be so confident in yourself that you're able to present you for you and know that somewhere on some stage in the world they're going to absolutely fall in love with that. And I'm so happy to hear that you have found that in Sweden.
I mean, it takes time, and
It
it's
does,
still
it does.
yeah.
But I love that. I love that. So someone just sent in a question here, and I think it's also a very important one. Kind of similar to the stigma, stereotypes, things within the ballet world. There's a lot of politics in the dance industry. How do you deal with that, and what are your opinions of the political nature that sometimes is a part of different ballet schools, organizations, companies? I mean, it's different everywhere you go, but if you've ever encountered it, or what are your thoughts on that subject?
Well, politics. I don't know. I I just hate it when people get opportunities because they're friends with another person, and of course, this person might actually believe in it, in that other person, but it's frustrating.
For sure.
See, there is tons and tons and tons of talented people who could do the job 10 times better than the person who's actually doing it. And that's just frustrating. I don't know. That's the only type of politics that I've encountered. It's like friend politics, kind of, in a way.
For sure. No, that's interesting too. I think that for my personal experience, I have been to different competitions, and you'll experience things where, you'll have different partner schools or affiliate companies who make generous donations to these organizations, and that often can influence. I'm not saying it helps you win by any means, but it can obviously be a contributing factor if you have a school or a company giving you a lot of financial aid. I've definitely seen it where that school wins the best school award, or their student places in the top 3 or something like that. So there's little things, and it starts all the way from being a student to sometimes being in professional applications. And obviously, when you see stuff like that or when you've experienced that, is it just one of those things that's like, okay, great, it's happening and we'll forget about it? Or how do you cope with that?
Yeah, I mean, I never really was a competition dancer. The only competition I've done is Prix de Lausanne, and I can tell you it was not my cup of tea. Like, I really enjoyed it and I learned a lot.
Uh huh.
But I, yeah, of course, stuff like that happens all the time. And I don't know, maybe in some schools, a parent might sponsor a lot of money, and then all of a sudden their daughter or son has the lead role or something like that.
Sure.
I I don't know. I think it's just important to stay true to yourself in a way, and
Definitely.
to know that your time will come, and like karma will take care of it. I don't know. That's how I always try to see stuff. When stuff that happens and it's not right, I always try to stand up for it. But if it's out of my league and I cannot do anything about it, I think to myself, it's gonna be taken care of. And if it affects me, I'm like, okay, well, my time will come. If a person gets a role that I was supposed to get, but then because of politics, something like that, I don't know. I'm like, okay, my time will come. Then now is not my time, and I will just keep on doing what I'm doing as long as I'm doing well. That's
Definitely.
how I try to get through stuff.
For sure. No, and someone sent in a really interesting question. Obviously, we're not on a stage right now, and so the biggest platform that many people have access to right now is like what we're doing now through social media and being online and you know engaged through a screen of some sort. And so the question was, how important do you think it is for dancers to have a social presence on all these different types of media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all these different things, is it something that, do I have to be famous? Do I have to have a following? Do I have to have all of that to start being noticed? Does it help my career or is it a distraction?
Oh, that is hard.
It is hard.
It can go both ways. I have seen people getting so caught up in their social media that they only care about the picture they are presenting
Sure.
and not working on their quality. And that is very important because when I was in school, I saw all those pictures and I was like, oh my God, their legs are up there. They have feet like that.
Yeah,
And them in person and they start dancing and it doesn't have the same effect. And that's where social media can be very deceiving. I mean, you see it everywhere. Everyone's photoshopping their pictures, throwing a filter over it.
mm-hmm.
So I would say it's not really helpful for your career. I mean, some people, yes, it can help, and of course, you can do with social media whatever you like to do with it. And I don't judge you for posting any pictures or videos or you making a fool out of yourself. I'm like, girl, you do, and enjoy
I
watching
love
them.
that. Yeah.
Um, but especially for people in school, it can be very hard dealing with social media because you see all these posts coming and you raise your bar so high that it just becomes so much and you start getting down on yourself and it's just no, it's hard. Yeah, and I think it takes the right person to also become famous on social media. Like, of
Definitely.
course, people get famous, but I'm not sure if those are the best people to become famous.
If it's for the right reasons, yeah.
Yes. And if they just show, for instance, if I was a dancer and I was super flexible and I would just show myself in oversplits all the time, little kids in school might be like thinking, oh, I have to do that, and then push their body over the limits. And that's not a correct thing to do either. So I think once you become Insta famous, you have to be very careful with what you're posting.
Definitely. No, I think that's super, super relevant. I mean, yeah, it can be, like you said, it can be very deceiving. It can be very not what it looks like. And I think it's important for young students, young dancers, and even professionals to realize, pictures are not what our career is made of.
Mm.
Of course, you can capture moments in your career, if you're dancing and there's a photographer. And, I'm thankful many of my colleagues at Birmingham Royal Ballet, like, they are absolutely phenomenal photographers. And I've been fortunate that they've even caught some really amazing photos of myself. But that's a professional application. It's not let me stand on against a wall or this or that and do something for the likes. Of course, it's fun. If you have a great picture, post it. We all love to share those things, and it's nice to be able to chronicle moments in your life and your career, but I don't think it should be the priority of, like, I need this many followers, I need that, because I think it turns into more of a, you want the validation, and the whole point of our career is to be validated on stage and in our profession, not necessarily on a screen, because most of the people are only seeing you on a screen and not in person anyway. So I love your perspective. I think that's amazing. Someone sent it. Oh, my lovely mother, who is just like one wall away from me. What are you doing to be able to return to work in great shape? It's so funny because she watches some of these conversations and she's like, you should be doing what so and so is doing, or you should be doing what should I be doing that Julien is doing?
What you should be doing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think we are supposed to start rehearsing next week again.
Really? That's amazing.
Um, but we're not sure if that's actually gonna happen because we see it like day by day, week by week. So we'll see if that happens. But what do I do to be able to return to work in great shape? Nothing.
Hey, honesty is a good answer. I mean, genuinely, again, we've touched on this lightly, so I'm not going to kill too much time on it. But, everyone has to get by somehow. It's going to
Yeah.
look different on all of us. And regardless, when we come back to work, there's going to be an adjustment period. Not every company is going to start next week. Not every company is going to start next month. And unfortunately, you're starting to see more of that around the world. And so this is a really interesting time where, of course, it's important to keep focused about your career, but it's also important to tap into your other interests and tap into your other hobbies, which is something I wanted to ask you about as well, because I love watching. I don't know if anyone else sees this, maybe who's following this video now, but I love watching your videos of you singing. I think it's fabulous, and I think it's amazing. How important do you think it is for you to be able to tap into those other interests and passions like what you do?
Uh, it's so important. Like when the first like everyone was aware of coronavirus and this pandemic was happening and everyone was being locked up, I saw all these videos of people immediately freaking out, posting workouts, doing ballet bars, and I was like, I'm gonna take 2 weeks off, do nothing, let my body get a rest because my we came from a very tough triple bill, and my body needed it. Honestly, I needed those 2 weeks off. I didn't do anything for 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, I don't know, I didn't do much. I just picked up my guitar and tried to play some chords and tried to learn some new songs, and I just really tried doing that, and I really enjoy doing that, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it gives me a balance in my life for sure because I don't want to be obsessed with ballet. Like, I love ballet, but I don't want to be obsessed with it. So I try to find other interests. And I'm now at this point in my career. I'm like, okay, I want to grow. I want to become better and better and better. But there's also a part of me that really wants to tap into my other things that I like to do
For sure,
because
yeah.
and if there is a pathway for me in that direction, I am willing to take it as well. I'm just doing whatever makes me happy, and if that's singing, it's singing. If it's dancing, it's dancing. Right now, it's both, and I try to work on both, and yeah.
I love that. I think that's amazing. I want to ask you a question before we run out of time as well. This has been something that I've been asking all of my guests on here, And I have been getting just the most amazing range of answers. So I'm dying to hear what yours is. Again, this can be, basically it is, what is one thing that you would love to see change in the ballet world when we all get back to this normal type of life? Again, this could be something, we touched on it earlier, stereotypes and stigmas. This could be something circumstantial, environmental. What is something that you would love to see change or love to see more attention and care put into when we get back to the normal work?
Well, there's a few things, and what I want to start off with is also the topic why we're having these conversations. It's the mental health for sure. I think people that have a job at a ballet company as either a director or a physiotherapist or a ballet master, because those are the people we turn to for advice and everything. They need to be well educated. And I'm not saying that at Royal Swedish they're not. They are super well educated. But I think sometimes people love their job so much and they forget that whatever they do or say has such a big effect on us and our mental health.
Yeah.
I don't think sometimes they realize that even a certain look at my foot might make me think like, oh my God, this person hates me. Or something like that. It's silly. It sounds silly. But that's all. I don't think sometimes people realize how much effect they actually have on us. And that's super important because that can determine if you're going to flourish in your career or if you're just going to be down all the time and get upset with yourself, and that may stop your career from growing further,
Definitely. No, I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And luckily at Royal Swedish, we had this thing where we had mental skills training. So once a week we would gather and talk about certain things we can do to develop our mental skills, in class, in meetings, in rehearsals, on stage, performances, everything. So we had tools to use. And this was in my first year that I did this in the company, and I was insecure about getting renewal for my contract and everything. And if the director liked me, because he didn't know me and he didn't say anything for me for a few weeks, and I was so insecure, and all those tools really helped me. And I think that's very important, and I love to see a change in that. Now at Royal Swedish, that is quite okay, but just so people are aware that it also, that you need mental tools as well to help you through it, not just a physical tool.
Absolutely. No, I love that answer. I actually have to say, I haven't had an answer like that from anyone else so far. So I think that is an absolutely unique and incredible perspective on that. And I think it's something so important that I couldn't agree more. What our superiors, whether it's the person at the front of the room leading the class or if it is the physiotherapist, even just that initial communication with them, sometimes unspoken, just the physical nature of what you see, that can completely change how you think they think of you. So I love that. It's important. And I think that, there's a human element to what we do. And you said it perfectly, the mental thing. And I love hearing that Royal Swedish provides you with that, because not a lot of companies do. And it's especially hard for younger dancers when you get into a company. You were saying, your first year, you're not only dealing with a brand new profession, meaning it's your first year in a job, but you are young and you are living on your own, sometimes for the first time. You have to take care of these things called, bills and payments and things like this. And then you're dealing with colleagues who are not necessarily the same age as you, like when you were with your other students and classmates. You're dealing with people in all different aspects of life. And so I love that they're able to give you tools and resources to go through that. I think it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, for sure. It has helped me enormously, especially my first year, because you don't know what you're up to. Honestly.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's
but I was
It's an adjustment for sure. It's not an easy one, you know, take it from us. Like, it's an exciting thing for sure to get your first job and to be in a company, but it's also like the start of a whole new chapter, you know, where the new work just begins. So I love it. And there's so many people sending in questions, but unfortunately, we are just about out of time. So for those who are sending in questions, for those who have, thank you guys for being so active with this. If you guys have more questions for Julien or myself, check out allieetoile.com because there's an entire artist profile page on this lovely young man. If I'm looking at through the screen right now, I wish I could give everyone a hug. This is so hard. But Julien, I want to thank you so much for being part of today's conversation. I mean, my cheeks are hurting from smiling. That's your fault. But thank you so much for your amazing insight. No, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on here. I hope that everyone watching this has been able to have some amazing information and insight to take out of this. And, you know, I want to wish you continued health and safety, number one, but continued success in your career as well. And I'm just beyond happy to have had you be part of this series.
Thank you for having me. It's been great talking to you. It's been so long.
I know. Oh my gosh. I saw the picture you posted on your story and I was like, we look like babies. Wow. When all of this is over, I'm going to be flying over to Sweden and saying hello.
Honestly.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in today. Julien, thank you again. You are a star, and I am absolutely thrilled to have had you be part of this today. Take care, and for everyone else who is participating today, stay tuned for allieetoile for the next day's speaker. See you guys soon. Thank you, Julien.
Allie.
Bye.